especially for nurses, because we give so much. I think we just don't have nothing left after we finish giving to our patients, to our families, to our kids, to our spouse, to our this. And then when you get to us, it's like, I ain't got nothing. I'm empty.
When you wake up, this affirmation is let that shit go.
Oh,
Okay. I'm just being real.
Welcome to the Nurse Boss Shift, you guys, where we interview dope people to get y'all nurses to do something different. It's your girl, Dr. Kiana Jones.
And I'm Crystal P, the VDNP.
And today we have Miss Lora Rosemon. She is an affirmation and empowerment coach because we really feel like some of y'all need to be empowered and affirmed in your role as nurses. So Lora, go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Yes, affirmation coach, empowerment coach. Basically, I speak life over women because there was a time in my life that I lost a sense of who I was. And so I stepped into this person and being an affirmation coach after losing my sister by suicide.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I started speaking negativity over my life. I don't know who I am. And once I realized the power of our words, I knew I wanted to share with the next person what that looks like, what that sounded like, and how I stepped out of a space of feeling lost, confused, broken, and into a space of feeling more empowered and better than I had before. So yeah, that's how I stepped into this space.
Can you, because I've never heard of an affirmation coach at all. And I know what affirmations are.
Right.
So, but like, how do you coach someone? Like, how do you coach someone with affirmations? I mean, what's your role?
So we are always speaking life, no matter what, whether it's negative or positive. We are always affirming ourselves, whether it's negative or positive. And so in realizing that that's what it's called, we're affirming ourselves on a daily basis. Why not take that self-proclaimed title and say affirmation coach? Because what I share, I'm intentional about the words that come out of my mouth.
Right.
And I always also say I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
As I'm empowering those around me, I'm empowering myself.
Yes, for sure.
And so that's how that kind of came together. Like, okay, if I'm going to be intentional about the words coming out of my mouth and I know how it makes me, I'm going to make sure that that's going to affirm anyone that decides to listen to anything that's coming out of my mouth.
I love that. I remember when I first started my journey in entrepreneurship, and I met with someone who, she was a coach, but she was more like empowerment coach. And when she met with me, one of the things that I've never forgotten, this was almost 7 years ago, she was just like, your words are so negative. I would argue for my limitations. And I'm big on, like, when I hear people do it, I'm like, you're arguing for your limit. But I did it so much that it made sense that I was where I was. And she's just like, all the negativity you spewing about yourself, do you know what that's doing for your life? But I never looked at her, and I guess she probably was like an affirmation coach. I never looked at her as that, but I started doing affirmations after meeting with her because she recommended this book. Do you teach people how to affirm things over their life? Like, is there a strategy behind it?
I think the main part of a strategy is recognizing your words.
Right.
Self-awareness.
Right.
Self-awareness is the key to it all. And so anything that I share or teach, I actually have affirmation cards as well, because I did have to learn to affirm myself first. I did have to learn to love myself in the space that I had to let go of guilt and shame and feeling my lowest as if I failed at keeping my sister alive. So it is those words that I reflected on and feeling bad, and this last call I could have just did, or if I would have just been there, those things can break you because you cannot change it. And so self-awareness is key in me acknowledging, or you acknowledging and realizing what you're telling yourself. It is your story. What story are you sharing? What story are you telling other people, right? And even with that, the conversations that you have, and some people will affirm your negative ways, like, or you affirm someone else's negative ways, like, oh, girl, you had a bad day. Me too, girl, my bad day. And then we go down a shithole.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Then we that shithole of things that are happening in our life, instead of somebody breaking that and say, but what is that one thing that happened good, or what did I learn from it?
Yeah.
What am I gaining from this, right? Because it's never just about the negativity. The challenges and things that we go through is always a space of growth.
Yeah.
And so self-awareness would be key in understanding how you're affirming yourself and the story you're telling yourself.
I was going to say I had my first, I guess, interaction with affirmations when I started seeing a therapist too, and she told me to start listening to how I talk to myself. Because for the most part, I think like, I'm pretty positive and upbeat, but when you really start listening and start seeing how mean you are to yourself or how much negativity you spew, then I started realizing like, wow, okay, I do say some negative thing, or I do talk negatively to myself. So then just realizing that, and then I just tried to say something positive right after, once I catch myself saying something negative, but I'll do that, but blah, 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 right? And make it into a positive. And then she also suggested, or I don't know if she suggested or I got this from somewhere else, but I started putting affirmations on my my mirror in my bathroom so I can remind myself to say them every day. Because I think we hear affirmations and we know that they're good for us, but then we kind of forget them.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to have that presence known. But I also, to your point with talking to that friend, I think sometimes we go to that person who will affirm those negative thoughts with us because we're looking for that sense of making us feel okay about it. And then you should, because I know Kiana and I do that too, like, my thing was just, but we always come around. So be like, okay,
That's a dumb shit here fest. We don't have dumb shit here.
Yeah.
Dumb. I think we need to release that. I think that's a part of self-awareness as well. But if you're just dumping and dumping and dumping and you never acknowledge how much you dump and you don't actually fill yourself back up, like you just dumping and spewing shit, it's almost like you're full of shit then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to dump, then let's replace that with something more positive. Okay, we're going on happy hour. We're going to get dressed up and we're going to feel good about ourselves because we just released that. Now let's celebrate this space we're in. Like I'm here on the podcast. So
we have that dumb shit under it. Ain't no wrong there.
I just think about, so our listeners are mostly nurses, and I know we are notorious for not speaking positivity over ourselves. Like, we can empower our patients, we can encourage everyone around us, but to show up for yourself, it seems to be, and I feel like it's because we were conditioned that way. Even throughout nursing school, I always say we're placed in a position of servitude. But servants, which is, I'm okay with being a servant and serving others, but we do a disservice to ourselves in the presence of serving others. So we can't see our positives. We can't see the good things about us, and a lot of times. And so I think it takes active work to do it. So what is some active work, especially for nurses, because we give so much? I think we just don't have nothing left after we finish giving to our patients, to our families, to our kids, to our spouse, to our this. And then when you get to us, it's like, I ain't got nothing. I'm empty. So like, what would you say are some things that you think, in particular nurses and those who are in healthcare, right, in positions of service, like could do or should do to become more positive or to affirm the life that they want, the lives that they want?
That is, I hate to say it like this, but self-care has become so trendy.
Right.
That is like a trendy thing, and it's supposed to look a certain way. It's supposed to feel a certain way. But I'm going to say self-care, but I don't want it to be in a sense of what is everybody else doing? Because it's going to look different for everybody. I'm not a nurse, so I can't speak from that standpoint, but understanding a bit of self-care, I think I teach women to breathe as well. So breathe and be selfish. I think that goes into being mindful and meditation. Now, I'm going to say this because I was somebody that was not about meditation. I ain't got time for that. My mind is racing and doing other shit when I'm trying to calm down. But that was also a sign that I needed to do it more because my mind had more control over me than I did. So I'm like, hey, sit still with myself because my mind keeps telling me other stuff. And that means I probably need to sit still with myself a little bit longer so that I can tame that. So that I can be aware of what that's telling me.
Right.
And so I think meditation is a way of, releasing the patients, releasing the kids, releasing the spouse, relationships, and being like, this is a moment to myself. Now, what is it that I need to do for me? Because I can't answer that for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think meditation is a big, huge thing. And even if that's just going for a walk. It doesn't have to be this
Right.
Yeah. What
Namyo Horenge Kyo. What's Tina Turner?
as well. It was more like, I don't have time to, I got other shit to do. So to me, it's about being intentional, going for a walk and taking a breath of fresh air. One of the practices that my kids and I do, and it's turned into something that they don't even realize they do. When we walk outside to get in the vehicle, the first thing they do is look to the clouds, and they see the pictures, or they see what this cloud looks like, or they're in a space of stillness and don't even realize it, what they're taking in the moment. And I think as nurses, you probably don't ever have a chance to take in your own moment, in your own space. And so sometimes it's a small act of stepping outside and saying, let me take in this space of stillness. And around me, like just this feeling right here, like it's just still. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, is to breathe or meditate or exercise, right? Finding that space and then honing in on what your thoughts telling you about how you don't have time to do things for yourself, because you're also affirming that.
Yeah.
You stop affirming that shit.
Right.
You have time for yourself.
Yes.
You have to just learn to, I guess, separate what that is.
Yeah.
And also affirm how much you are doing for other people. Like, you don't realize what you're doing for other people, but you're actually caring for other people. That same energy that you're putting in them, you should be like, okay, today it's my day.
Yeah. And I think nurses need to do more, really being mindful of what we say, and not just anyone, but our audience is nurses. Right. So nurse is what we say to ourselves. Because I think if we take inventory on the constant conversation we have in our head, it will make you cringe. Like when you pay attention. And I learned that, of course, when I invested in a mindset coach, and I was reading The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and that book, I realized, dude, like 90% of my conversation was negative. I don't care if it was negative about me, negative about somebody else, negative, but 90% of the head talk was negative. And so that is not easy to undo. I know it's possible.
No, it's not easy. You don't have to put that on you. I just wanted to interject that, because that's something that you can affirm and say it's not easy to undo. But once you say it's not easy to undo, it's also saying, but I can do that. And that's fine. It's okay if it takes a little time. Yeah. First thing is self-awareness to even catch yourself.
Yeah. So I agree. Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing that shit again.
Yeah.
I'm doing it again. And that's okay. That's not a slap of, that's just like, oh God, actually I can applaud myself for catching that.
Right. That's a win. That's a win.
It's all wins. It's those things to pay attention to.
Especially when you've been doing it for 30, 40 years. And then you expect, once you have identified it, that all of a sudden it's going to change overnight. And it's not. It's going to require consistent work.
Right.
And I find that even now, like I talk, like you said, your kids, like my kids, like I have those conversations with them too. Like, don't say that. I didn't get that growing up. So I feel like, it was just looked at as normal. And so now it's like, okay, that's not okay. Like, you can always you choose what you want to focus on. You can half full, half empty. And I try. I'm not going to say I win all the time, but I definitely make an attempt to be positive, or at least, like Crystal said, take a spin on it. Like in every situation, I'm like, okay, how could I have done that better? Especially when things don't go the way I want to, or what is the learning opportunity here? What am I supposed to take away from this? That requires a lot of work to change your mind. And y'all have to remember, a lot of the way our mind works comes from like our family projecting their limiting beliefs, our beliefs, our mom, our grandma, like it comes from all of that. And you are trying to break not only your 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years of life, but also their lives, and the grandma and the mom, and go back and back and back. But like, you have to break it so that your kids won't be that way as well. And I think that plays an important role, which will take me to the next part, which is entrepreneurship. Like, how do you feel like as an affirmation coach, or what have you seen when it comes to entrepreneurs either lacking or being more affirmative with their lives? Do you see any difference with those who are entrepreneurs versus those who are not?
I think it's belief within ourselves. I think that's with a lot of people, but with entrepreneurship, you're stepping into something that is like inside of you. Nobody else has this vision, so they don't understand it. And sometimes you can look like you're obsessed. Sometimes you can look like you're crazy because you're stepping into this path. Some people are afraid to step into. And we look at them as judging us versus realizing that we actually stepping into something that a lot of people are afraid to step into. You know what I'm saying? So it's like belief within ourselves sometimes, even though we're showing up today, but it's like in the back of your head might be like, do I really believe that I'm doing this?
Yeah.
Am I good enough? Am I
Yeah.
gonna say it right? Are people gonna receive anything? I hope people receive anything. And so I think the belief within ourselves and authenticity.
Yeah.
I think once you bust that bubble of actually saying, I am just going to be who I am.
Oh my God.
I say
that
that gets you
again.
upset in this moment and I catch it later. Let me own that and come back to you. But in that moment, that's what I felt. My bad. Okay. I think it's taking ownership to who we are and what we choose to say or how we say what we say.
Right.
And not worry about what everybody else is going to think about it.
Yeah.
Because, I think honing in on belief within ourselves for entrepreneurship was a big thing to me. I know Tiffany and I talked about on another podcast, imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that that's a huge thing. And I mean, I've dealt with it too. I think that creeps in. I don't like to affirm that type of stuff. In my mind, I also did a little bit of more research on the imposter syndrome idea. And a positive note on that means that you are stepping into something that you have never stepped into before. So you're experiencing imposter syndrome. Give yourself an applause. Because guess what? You're breaking a barrier. And so instead of saying, oh my God, I don't really think I belong here, you absolutely belong here. Because you took the steps to get here in the first place. So now what? Take the next steps to get out of that space. Because it's going to keep on having to break these patterns and shells. Every time you hit a new level in your life, you're going to feel uncomfortable. And I think that you should take it on entrepreneurship. You are going to be uncomfortable in this. I don't care. It might get a little bit more easy breezy. You might get a swing of it, but then that's when the next level comes in. Not to break another.
That's right. That's right. Shout out to Tiffany, y'all. That's telehealthpreneur. She'll be on here as well. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say the imposter syndrome, especially for new entrepreneurs, I think is such a huge thing because we spend a lot of time. And when I first started, I didn't even know what that was. And then people were talking about imposter syndrome, and I was like, oh my God, that's me. So what are some things? I just feel that I always tell our students too, you just have to get over it and get over it quick. Because otherwise you'll spend years in that whole cycle. What is something you think someone can do who's an entrepreneur to kind of get out of that imposter syndrome? Well, one, you said just realizing that you're in the right space to even have that feeling.
Find the positive in it. Find the positive in it. I'm feeling like I don't belong here. Why not? Why don't you? That's you thinking about what other people think here. Because if you didn't think you belong here, you wouldn't be there in the first place. You would have never stepped into this position. And it took me, I mean, this is a 7-year journey. I'm talking in this confidence space. It took a 7-year journey of loss and grief and me thinking that I was supposed to figure out how to talk about mental health and suicide prevention. This was me being like, okay, I'm a hairstylist 10 plus years back. I'm a hairstylist. How am I supposed to sit up here and talk about mental health and I'm not a mental health provider? I'm not in that field. And so I went through a space of having to figure out, well, who am I in this position to try to share my story to help the next person not have to deal with a mental illness. She was diagnosed bipolar disorder. Understanding bipolar disorder and understanding that suicide is preventable. Who am I to stand up there? And I had to break up with the idea that I don't have to be a mental health professional.
Right.
This is my testimony. And I'm still sitting here. My sister, she is an angel for me, and I'm sitting here because of her and opening up the conversation on mental health or mindset or empowerment. And so bring me back to where I was, because that happens.
Me too.
Yeah, that was what.
She was asking about tools.
So I think self-awareness is like number one. And if you're a journaler, like if you like to journal, I think it's catching yourself to write that down. And then when you go back and read, you're like, what the heck? Thanks for that. Right. You know, that's what's going on in my mind. You just lay it all out. So that's one tool is journaling. I know I write down stuff like on a regular, and it's not necessarily dear diary stuff. It's just whatever happens to hit me in that moment, which is a part of affirming yourself, the affirmations. So hopefully I hit that point right there.
Yeah. When it comes to, but so I want to know, you said you were a hairstylist. See, I didn't even know that. So you were a hairstylist. How the heck, that's a like transition. Okay. So I know you experienced the loss of your sister. But even still, that doesn't segue necessarily into this. So how did that happen?
Oh, it was something in me. It was something in me. Prior to losing my sister and stuff, I remember she was a real estate agent. And I remember being like, I'm going to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a motivational speaker. But then in that process, everything was going good in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to say? Smile. You know, in my mind, I was like, I don't really have a story to say about motivation. Little did I know that story was coming.
Yeah.
It was coming. And so that's one of the other things I say. Don't sit up here and think that you want to ask for somebody else's life. You have no idea what they've been through, where they're at, and what their next space may be. And you think it looks better on the outside looking in, but you don't know their backstory for them to even get to that space. And so that's kind of how me being a hairstylist, and even being a hairstylist, like that's kind of therapy too, because everyone that used to know me,
right? Yes, well, it's therapy for us when we sit in the chair too.
Get to the base, and so after I just didn't have a passion there anymore. I knew I wanted to open my mouth more and be in the forefront to help those get out of a space that I went through, you know? So that was a journey.
I feel like a lot of nurses could really be in that space too. And I think they don't realize it because we're so busy putting on this camouflage of our life instead of really there's something to say about a person who wants to always be in a position where people need them. I'm sorry. And I think we all have, and it's very relatable to us as nurses, like we like to be needed. And I think depending on your upbringing and what you've been through, but I think there's something to be said about that. But I think it's not talked about enough. And so I want to talk to you from the business perspective, like how, like nurses definitely, like even if it's just your patients, like your emotional tank be on low a lot of the times. So I think even stepping into a space like this would put us in positions where we can recharge ourselves, where we can share our journey. And so what was like some of the first things you did to start segueing into that? Was it like you showed up on podcasts? Did you write something? Did you start your Instagram page? Like, what did you do?
Mentorship. I got a mentor.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
We always talk about mentorship. So let's talk about it because we tell these people all the time, y'all need a mentor.
You do.
So let's talk about it.
You do. It is amazing how you think you have it set up. And then when I leave from my mentor, I'm like, oh my God, like you saw my whole next steps. Like you felt where exactly I already knew. Like you know this within you and they're able to reflect the mirror back at you. So you can be like, okay, that was confirmation. And you gave me steps. So mentorship is huge.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just like when you work out, you can work out by yourself, but if you get a trainer, guess what? You're going to take it to the next level because they're going to push you. So you need people that have been there, done that to help you. And I think a lot of times we want to sit here and say we do it by ourselves, but we don't, and it's okay. We don't have to be superwoman all the time. You can take the cape off and say, can somebody else help me?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's okay to have help and looking up to someone that has been there, done that, doing it, that you know can pull you through this, you know, when it's dark or when it's good, to celebrate you.
Yeah.
So mentorship is one of them.
So the first step you did was mentorship. And then your mentor obviously said to you, do you know you should be out here sharing this story. You should be out here. And then what? Because that's the scariest part. It's like the mentor tells you to do something. Now it's going to require you to do it. Wow. What did you do?
I stepped into it. I shared my story of loss and grief on several stages, occasions with mental health providers. And every freaking time I would share my story, I would start crying.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I hated it. I was like, I felt like I was torturing myself, you know, not realizing I was pushing through a space that I had to do to get to today. And so I stepped up to it. I'm not going to say it was easy. In hindsight, I'm not going to say I realized I was stepping up to it because there were support system. Support system would be there too.
Yeah.
Nurses, y'all all know what's going on in your head. So it's like once you start changing your vocabulary, your words, what you're saying, then it's like, well, let's support us get up, you know, out of this or out of this feeling of neediness.
Yeah.
So I think, mentorship makes you step into it because now you're being held accountable by somebody.
Right.
It ain't just you sitting there like, okay, today I just, you know, it's one of those days.
Yeah.
So, and then stepping into it was, like I said, that was stepping on stage. That was me the crazy thing is I knew my story, but I was afraid and didn't know how to share what I was sharing. Because like I said, this goes back into the imposter feeling, like I thought I had to share it a certain way as if I was a mental health professional.
Yes.
You know, so
Yeah.
I think whatever it is, whatever that stepping into what you need to step into for you is different for everybody.
Right.
But you just got to do it. Getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, breaking up with comfort zone would be the second.
Breaking up the song.
How did you get your first client? And from the speeches and thoughts? No.
So I did start doing hosting monthly events, and that was for me to have like conversations like this. We pass out affirmations. Like I didn't know what that looked like. I was just trying out some stuff.
Yeah.
I just put myself out there.
Yeah.
Did it
Imperfect action.
And the first one that I had, and guess what? I did a video and said, when you see this video, know that I didn't stop yet. And now I have people in my space.
Oh, that's
I
powerful.
went and looked at it and was like, thank you, Lora.
Yeah.
Thank you for believing in you. Because you could have cried, but like, I mean, I felt some type of way. Obviously,
of course.
nobody showed up, but I had my best friend and I had another person that I was working with that came. Nobody showed up. And if I wouldn't have made that video, I think I would have let it beat me up. But knowing that I made that video to look back, that was accountability for myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop.
Right.
I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have like one-on-one clients. I do want like groups, and events, workshops, stuff like that.
I love that. And see, your test is your testimony. And like, I don't think people in it now, and by the way, this is a buildup of mental I call it mental fortitude. Like now when things don't go my way, that's what I say. And I say it loud. I'm like, okay, this is my test. Like I'm obviously gonna share this at another time. Like, and I receive it. Or I say, this is what's making me stronger. I'm going to be better, faster, stronger because as a result of it, because it doesn't feel good, right? I'll acknowledge that, but I know because it's happened 100% of the time, I've become better as a result of the things that did not feel good.
Right.
100%. There is not one occasion I can remember in my life where I went through something and then I look back and it was a horrible experience and I can't see why it happened the way it happened. 100% of the time I know why. And I think that is often not spoke about enough, especially on social platforms, because it's always the good, the glitz, the glamour, and the things that are really that does not define you. Like, I feel like it's the resilience that's built is because of the challenges you endure.
For sure.
And don't give up.
For sure.
That's the thing. And like, if you do that, if you go through them and you get through them, then you become a refined version of yourself. And I think people don't realize that because they don't like being uncomfortable.
Right.
Entrepreneurship, we were talking about, it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, you lose money, you gain money, you lose friends, you get talked about, you get laughed at, and yet you keep going. But imagine the person who is able to endure that and survive that, what they look like. They look like us. Nah, bro.
And even note that again, what you said about entrepreneurship, because I didn't note that. I want to make sure they heard that. That you do lose money sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It ain't money. You're going to lose a lot of people. And stop doing things. That's why I was talking about people think you obsessed and you done lost your mind because of the things that you're doing. Look at it as sacrifice. If I didn't want to go to that party because I know I got this going on, it ain't because I feel like I'm not missing out on anything. That's what my passion is. That used to be something fun. I'm sorry, friend, I can't make that one. I got this going on. But you're more than welcome to show up over here. So some people not going to show up with you. And that's okay. You're going to have to let some hands go.
And that's the problem. People don't want to let go of their old self to birth the new self, the rebirth. People don't want that.
Other side. It is, but it is hard. It is. I would like to be positive sooner. Even the fact that I take a couple hours and I'm down and then it really clicks like, no. Yeah. I'm going to do this. So now I'm trying to even shorten that, that period. So I don't even like that. It's a day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I call someone or like a Kiana or my mom and they instantly turn and like, okay, I need to get to that to where I don't even let this fester as long. So I think, as you said, with entrepreneurship is kind of, you constantly go through that. So you learn pretty fast to get over it, but it can definitely scare people in the beginning to make them want to stop.
Right. Exactly.
You feel like you made a mistake.
Yeah. No, that's the thing though. The resilience is built, you guys, when you hang in there. And that's what I'm like, sometimes it be so bad. I'm like, I'm definitely going to be strong after this. For sure. I'm like, man, I'm about to be real strong because this is some real shit I'm going through. Like, but that's okay because I'm going to get through it. I love actually this conversation, you guys. I didn't even tell y'all that this is a special episode for us. By the way, I was supposed to share it in the beginning, but I'm gonna share it now. We're in Houston, and Lora is from H-Town, born and raised. Y'all know it's a lot of expats here, like people who come in here, right? But she's born and raised here. And also, you guys, we are celebrating our 1 year. We actually made it a year, and we did it ugly, right? We invested in people, and this goes back to what we talked about. Like Crystal and I positioned ourselves where we could hire us a coach that was specifically for podcasts. We had some podcasts where we looked toe up, some podcasts that we didn't want to show up, some podcasts when people flaked on us, but we still are here. And I think that is us affirming what our lives are going to look like, you guys, and we have the power to do that. So before we go, I want to we usually have this little thing where we ask for 3 things that our audience can do. Now, this will be related to empowerment or affirmation. Okay. 3 things you can tell them to do to affirm themselves or empower them to step outside of their comfort zone, to do something great and have a great life. What would you say?
Okay. First thing, I love to share my favorite affirmation.
Okay. Yes.
So please. We'll try to dig so deep. How to be this grand. So I think the first thing is put this affirmation somewhere where you can even be on your pillow. Okay. Because when you wake up, this affirmation is let that shit go.
Oh.
Okay. I'm just being real. That is one that I love to bring out, and most people just think I'm about to say something very fancy. Let that shit go, because yesterday is gone. Okay. So whoever pissed you off, got on your nerves, if something did not go your way, let that shit go. You have a new opportunity, a new space here to vibe differently. Create that into what you want. Let that shit go. Tomorrow's not promised. So let that idea go too. I'm not saying your goals, dreams, and desires, but if things don't go the way it was supposed to, you might be a little bit disappointed. So let some of that shit go too. So that's the first. Put that somewhere special. Let it go.
I like that.
The second thing is like I always say, breathe. I think being present and in the moment is so important. We are so distracted by everything going on, especially with social media.
Yeah, a lot for sure.
Stuff. And so being present, and sometimes being present is hard because you may be facing something challenging. But when I say be present, I mean let your presence be known. Like that person inside you that you know you want to step up to be, that you're stepping up to be, let that presence enter the space. Let that presence speak for you. So that presence that's inside of you is not influenced by outside things or what you think people are thinking of you. So you have to breathe, inhale, and exhale sometimes before opening up your mouth, because you don't want to speak what everybody else has put in your mind.
Right.
So being present is the one. And that goes back to mindfulness, meditation, and breathing. Sometimes it's just walking down the aisle at the grocery store and having a moment to breathe with yourself. So let that shit go, breathe. And then the final thing is you know what? Just be happy with where you are right now. Okay, you are breathing. We are a creation, of our higher power, our creator. And I think sometimes we forget how valuable life is. If you're experiencing life right now, no matter what you're going through, I think you just need to go ahead and say, you know what? Today I am thankful. Gratitude is a huge thing that I hold on to. And so if I had to sum up being happy with who you are in this space right now as you continue to evolve, I think gratitude, expressing gratitude on a regular, not because you received something, not because I did you. Sometimes it's gratitude for thank you for keeping me sane today. Thank you for getting me through today. Thank you for,
waking me up in the morning. People don't, you should wake up. I wake up like, thank you, Lord.
Thank you for this bed, And so gratitude. So affirm yourself daily. Let that shit go, because a lot of things we need to let go. That's why we don't step up into the person that we know we're capable of stepping up into.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
On some things. Second thing was breathe. Breathe. You got to be mindful and be present in the space that you're in. And the third is
be happy.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude. Appreciate it.
To ask you about your affirmation cards, see where can we find them?
Yes, jolieday.com, JOLIIDE.com. Jolie Day stands for Beautiful Mind in Louisiana Creole. That's what that is like. What's Jolie E Day? JOLIIDE.com. You can find there. And I also have the Selfish Experience, where I host selfish events if you're in the Houston area as well. It's raw, authentic selfishness. It's meaningful conversations with phenomenal women in
I love that.
empowering each other.
Okay. All right. And where can we find you? Where can we find you?
JolieEday.com. I also have a YouTube channel where I put a lot of my speaking and teachings. It's youtube.com/Lora Rosemon, LORAROSEMOEN. Instagram, Lora Rosemon. So I am on Instagram, YouTube, and then my site.
Well, Lora, we appreciate you for coming and affirming with us. Y'all needed this, though, especially for our annual episode, because some of y'all are still listening a year later and haven't done nothing. I'm calling you out. It's time. I need you to affirm the life that you want. And also, more importantly, feel empowered, you guys, because I'm going to tell you, it's not an easy journey, but it is definitely worth it. That's why we created this podcast. Imagine having a mission so greater than yourself that you get on camera or get on this mic uncomfortable and start talking to people. Like, that's what you're going to have to do, you guys. It requires that level of discipline and dedication to why this needs to happen. So connect yourself to the mission and then show up for your higher self. On that note, we are out. Bye, you guys.